Ambassador Daniel Carter sat at his desk in the modest Earth Embassy on Xandaria Prime, spreading strawberry jam on his toast. The morning light filtered through the tall windows, casting long shadows across the polished floor. He sipped his coffee and scrolled through morning reports on his tablet. His breakfast ritual was interrupted by a soft chime from his computer. A message marked with the golden seal of the Galactic Council had arrived. He raised an eyebrow, set down his toast, and opened the transmission. As he read, his expression shifted from curiosity to disbelief, then to something resembling amusement. He read the message twice more to be certain. "They can't be serious," he muttered, brushing crumbs from his uniform. The message was clear and direct. The Galactic Council, representing 27 advanced species across the known galaxy, had officially declared war on humanity. The reasons cited included dangerous expansion into protected sectors and cultural contamination of developing species. Daniel took another sip of coffee and pressed the secure communication button on his desk. After a moment, the tired face of the Secretary of State appeared on his screen. "Sir, you're not going to believe this," Daniel said, unable to keep a hint of a smile from his face. "The Galactic Council just declared war on us." The secretary blinked slowly. "I'm sorry. They did what?" "Declared war, sir. Full galactic conflict. They're giving us 30 days to surrender unconditionally." A long pause followed as the secretary processed this information. "And what exactly do they plan to do if we don't surrender?" Daniel skimmed the document again. "Apparently, they'll bring the full might of the unified galactic forces down upon Earth and all human colonies." "I see," the secretary said, running a hand through his gray hair. "And they sent this to you over regular diplomatic channels?" "Yes, sir. Same way they'd send an invitation to a cultural festival." The secretary sighed. "I'll inform the president. We'll need an emergency session to discuss this, though I'm not sure whether to treat it as a crisis or a misunderstanding." "If I may, sir," Daniel replied. "From the tone of this document, they seem quite serious." "That's what worries me. Stand by for instructions." At the same moment, across the galaxy in Sol Defense Command, Fleet Admiral Olivia Wright was reviewing the same declaration. Her office overlooked the vast shipyards of Earth's orbital defense station. She read the message twice, her face betraying no emotion. Her aide, Lieutenant Ryan Miller, stood nervously at attention. "Ma'am, should I issue alert protocols?" Admiral Wright looked up from the screen and reached for her coffee mug. Finding it empty, she held it out. "What I need is more coffee, Lieutenant." Ryan blinked in confusion. "But ma'am, the declaration will still be there after I've had my coffee," she finished. She turned her chair to look out at the stars. "Well, this should be interesting." While the Admiral waited for her coffee, she tapped a few commands into her console. A historical file appeared. A contingency plan labeled Protocol Underdog. She smiled slightly as she reviewed it. Humanity had only joined the interstellar community 40 years ago. Most species still considered humans technological infants, barely able to achieve faster-than-light travel. Little did they know that Earth's history of constant warfare had prepared humans for this moment in ways the peaceful Council species couldn't imagine. Throughout human colonies, the news of the declaration spread quickly. But instead of panic, the response was surprisingly muted. On New Terra, farmers continued their harvests. On Galileo Station, researchers carried on with their experiments. In Earth's cities, people went to work as usual, though the declaration dominated conversation. The Council had given humanity 30 days to surrender. They expected fear and diplomatic scrambling. Instead, humans simply shrugged and went about their business, a response the Council had not anticipated, and one they would soon learn to regret. Grand Orator Zixspoon paced across the polished floor of the Council chamber, his 6 limbs moving in perfect harmony. Above him, the massive dome of the Galactic Council headquarters displayed a real-time map of the known universe, with human territories highlighted in red. "Are we absolutely certain this is the correct approach?" asked Delegate Morath of the Vex Collective, his metallic voice echoing in the chamber. Zixvoon's facial ridges flared with impatience. The humans have violated 16 different expansion treaties in the past decade alone. They spread their culture like a virus, contaminating developing worlds. The Council has voted. The time for debate is over. Around the circular table sat representatives of the galaxy's most advanced civilizations, the Arcturians, masters of gravitational manipulation, the Vorel consciousness, whose hive mind controlled 1,000 worlds, the ancient Drell, who had traveled the stars when humans still lived in caves. Military Commander Jithal stepped forward, activating a holographic display. Our combined forces outnumber human military assets 20-1. Their technology is primitive by our standards. Most of their warships lack even basic quantum shielding. The display showed detailed scans of human defense systems, civilian populations, and industrial capacities. Every weakness was catalogued, every vulnerability noted. They only achieved faster than light travel 40 years ago, added Science Director Ilara. Their weapons are mostly kinetic and nuclear, nothing our shields cannot handle. In the corner of the chamber, Lieutenant Christopher Hayes sat quietly, the only human present as a diplomatic observer. He wore the simple blue uniform of Earth's Space Force and took notes on a small tablet. Unlike the other beings in the room, he seemed completely relaxed, occasionally sipping water from a small container. Delegate Morath noticed him. The human seems unconcerned by our plans to conquer his species. Zixvoon glanced at Hayes with 4 of his eyes. Their calm is puzzling. Perhaps they do not fully comprehend the situation. Hayes looked up and smiled politely. I understand completely, Arbiter. I'm just here to observe and report back. Your people have 30 days to surrender, Jithal said. Do they truly believe they can resist? Hayes shrugged. I just follow orders, Commander. The politicians will decide how to respond. Something about the human's casual demeanor made Zixvoon uncomfortable. In his 1,000 years of diplomatic service, he had seen many reactions to Council decisions. Anger, fear, bargaining, but never such calm acceptance of impending doom. Our intelligence reports indicate minimal military mobilization in human space, reported Security Director Vask. They appear to be going about business as usual. Denial, suggested Ilara. A psychological defense mechanism. Vask's antenna twitched. We did intercept an encrypted message from Earth Command. It simply said, proceed with protocol underdog. We've been unable to determine its meaning. Meaningless posturing, Jithal dismissed. The first wave of our fleet has already begun mobilizing. We will secure their outer colonies within days of the deadline's expiration. As the meeting continued, Hayes quietly excused himself. In the corridor outside, he activated his secure communicator. They're proceeding exactly as expected, Admiral. Complete confidence in their superior numbers and technology. No consideration of our history or capabilities. Admiral Wright's voice came through clearly. And they bought your performance. Hayes smiled. They think I'm just a note-taker. They outlined their entire battle plan right in front of me. Perfect. Continue observation. Remember, we need them overconfident. Yes, Mom. Hayes pocketed the device and straightened his uniform. As he walked back toward the council chamber, his expression returned to one of polite deference. Behind him, the first wave of the council's warships entered formation, ready to bring humanity to its knees. None of their commanders wondered why humans weren't afraid. None asked why a species known for constant warfare throughout its history seemed so unconcerned about facing another. They would learn soon enough. The morning sun rose over the rolling hills of New Montana, painting the small mining colony in golden light. Workers filed into the main processing facility while children walked to the colony's only school. Beyond the settlement, massive excavators pulled valuable minerals from the planet's crust, operations continuing as if no galactic war had been declared. Lisa Martinez stood outside the colony's administration building, checking items off on her tablet. As the local defense coordinator, She should have been in a panic. The Galactic Council's deadline was approaching, and New Montana had only a small security force, 10 officers with basic weapons. "Morning, Lisa," called Sam Wilson, the colony's mayor. "Any word from Earth Command?" Lisa nodded. "Just got the briefing package. We're to continue normal operations and implement Protocol Underdog this weekend. The volunteers ready. 28 signed up for the special drills. We'll start at 800 Saturday." Sam looked around at the peaceful colony. Hard to believe we're supposedly at war. From a discreet observation post in the hills, 2 Vorel observers watched through high-powered sensors, their linked consciousness struggling to understand what they were seeing. "No evacuation efforts," reported one to Council Command. "No fortifications being constructed. No weapons being distributed. They appear to be ignoring the declaration completely." Similar reports came in from observers near every human settlement. On factory worlds, production continued uninterrupted. On agricultural planets, farmers tended their fields. On Earth itself, cities buzzed with normal activity. The only changes were subtle ones. Communication systems were quietly being upgraded. Cultural archives were backed up and secured. Civilian transport between systems increased slightly as families reunited. Aboard Space Station Freedom, orbiting the gas giant Titan, Captain Kevin Foster supervised the transfer of non-essential personnel. "Keep it casual," he instructed his officers. "No need to cause alarm. Just tell everyone it's a scheduled rotation." Lieutenant Samantha Reed approached with a report. "Sir, we've completed the system backups. All critical data has been secured and distributed according to Protocol Underdog." "Good. And the new defensive systems?" "Installed but not activated. They remain completely invisible to external scans." Kevin nodded approvingly. "Perfect. The Council's observation ships won't see anything unusual." Throughout human space, a strange disconnect appeared between the seriousness of the situation and the human response. Instead of fear, there were jokes. Instead of panic, there were memes. Betting pools formed on how long the war would last. On social media networks, humans shared historical references that confused alien observers. Pictures of small countries that had defeated larger empires. References to asymmetric warfare and home field advantage. Quotes from ancient military texts that Council analysts couldn't properly translate. In orbit around Mars, Admiral Wright convened a secure meeting with her command staff. "All preparations proceeding on schedule," reported her logistics officer. "Civilian populations remain calm. Council intelligence continues to underestimate our capabilities." "And the Shadow Fleet?" Wright asked. "In position and undetected. We can activate at your command." Wright nodded and turned to face her officers. "Ladies and gentlemen, I want to remind you of the importance of maintaining this facade. The Council believes we are technological infants with minimal military experience. Their confidence is our advantage." She pulled up a historical image on the main screen, a small island nation standing alone against a continental power. "Remember Norwich," she said quietly. The officers nodded in understanding. Throughout human history, smaller forces had defeated larger ones through preparation, determination, and strategy. The Council species, having evolved past internal conflicts, had no concept of how thoroughly humans had perfected the art of war over thousands of years of fighting each other. As the Council's fleet approached the outer colonies, human ships began subtle repositioning. Not in panic or retreat, but in precise, planned movements. Pieces on a chessboard, sliding into position for a counterattack the enemy couldn't imagine coming. Commander Ava Nelson stood at the observation window of Horizon Colony's small defense outpost. The massive Council ships darkened the sky above, their hulls gleaming with alien technology far beyond what humans publicly displayed. Her team of 20 defense officers stood calmly at their stations. "They're hailing us, Commander," reported Communications Officer Joe Blake. "Put them through," Ava said, straightening her uniform. The screen flickered to life, showing the imposing figure of Fleet Commander Drax of the Arcturian Guard. His crystalline exoskeleton shimmered with authority. Human settlement, Drax announced. Your 30-day grace period has expired. The Galactic Council has declared war on your species. Surrender immediately or face destruction. Ava smiled politely. Good morning, Fleet Commander. I'm Commander Nelson of Horizon Colony. We've received your message, and we respectfully decline to surrender. Confusion flickered across Drax's alien features. Perhaps you misunderstand. We have over 50 warships in orbit. Your outpost has no significant defenses. We understand completely, Ava replied. Nevertheless, we decline. Drax consulted with his officers off-screen, clearly baffled by the calm refusal. When he returned, his voice carried a note of frustration. You leave us no choice but to demonstrate our power. The transmission ended, and seconds later, a precision energy blast struck the colony's unused storage facility. The building vaporized instantly. Damage report, Ava requested. None, Commander. They hit the empty warehouse, exactly as predicted. Ava nodded. Begin evacuation protocol. Casual pace, no panic. Throughout the colony, civilians moved with surprising order, boarding transport ships that had been positioned days earlier. There was no running, no screaming, just methodical movement. From orbit, the Council forces watched in confusion. They're evacuating, Commander Drax, reported a sensor officer. But there's something wrong. Explain, Drax demanded. They're too calm. And our scans show minimal military assets. No weapons platforms, no defense grid. Nothing worth conquering. Drax slammed a crystalline appendage on his command console. Where are their defenses? Where are their ships? This is one of their major outer colonies. Similar scenes played out across human space. Council forces arrived expecting resistance, but found only token defense forces that withdrew in orderly fashion. Colony after colony was conquered without significant fighting. On Earth, the news networks treated the war like a sporting event. Holographic displays showed Council advances with commentary from retired military officers. Classic rope-a-dope strategy, explained retired General Ricardo Diaz on Global News Network. Let your opponent exhaust themselves punching at nothing. In the presidential office in Washington, President Laura Simmons prepared to address the planet. Her advisors huddled around, reviewing the latest reports. Council forces have occupied 7 outer colonies, said Defense Secretary William Clark. Exactly as we anticipated. Casualties? The president asked. 0 military. 3 civilian injuries from evacuation accidents. President Simmons nodded and turned toward the camera. The red light blinked on, and her image was broadcast to every human settlement across the stars. Citizens of Earth and her colonies, she began, her voice steady and confident. As you know, the Galactic Council has declared war upon humanity. They believe us weak and unprepared. She paused, allowing a small smile. We've been here before. Throughout our long history, humanity has faced overwhelming odds. We have endured invasions and threats. We have developed the art of war through millennia of practice against ourselves. The camera zoomed in closer. To those in occupied colonies, stay calm and follow evacuation orders. To those still in the path of Council forces, maintain protocol underdog. To the Council itself, who I know will be watching this broadcast, we've only just begun. As her address ended, something remarkable happened across human space. People continued their daily lives. They went to work. They ate meals with family. They watched entertainment programs. The only difference was the quiet confidence in their eyes, the knowing looks they exchanged, the inside joke that 27 alien species couldn't understand. The war had begun, but only one side knew the true battlefield. 3 weeks into the war, the Council victory celebration was being prepared on Xandaria Prime. Banners decorated the Grand Hall as military leaders congratulated each other. They had captured 12 human colony worlds with minimal resistance. Human forces had retreated from every engagement. The humans are even weaker than our intelligence suggested, boasted Commander Drax to a group of admirals. They abandoned their colonies rather than fight. The celebration was interrupted by an urgent message. A junior officer rushed into the hall, his scales pale with distress. "Commander, our forces at Proxima Colony have gone silent." Before Drax could respond, another officer burst in. "The Arcturus fleet reports they're under attack." Then another. "We've lost contact with the Rigel occupation force." Screens throughout the hall activated automatically, showing tactical displays from across human space. Red warning symbols flashed everywhere. In the darkness of space near Proxima Centauri, a fleet of ships appeared seemingly from nowhere. They bore no resemblance to the primitive human vessels Council forces had expected. These ships were sleek, advanced, and horrifyingly effective. Admiral Gregory Parker stood on the bridge of the EDF Intrepid, watching as his ships tore through the surprised Council fleet. His gray hair and weathered face reflected decades of military service that predated human contact with the galactic community. "Status report," he requested calmly. "Council ships attempting to regroup, Admiral. Their shields are ineffective against our phase cannons. They didn't expect us to have this technology." Parker nodded. "Proceed as planned. Disable, don't destroy unless necessary. We want prisoners, not martyrs." Across human space, similar scenes unfolded simultaneously. Council occupation forces suddenly found themselves surrounded by human fleets that hadn't existed 3 weeks ago, or rather, fleets that had existed but remained invisible to Council detection. On New Montana, the weekend volunteers, Lisa Martinez, had trained revealed themselves to be veteran special forces. They emerged from hidden bunkers with advanced weapons, overwhelming the small Council garrison in minutes. Civilian transport ships transformed in mid-flight, weapon systems emerging from hidden compartments. Mining vessels revealed military-grade shields and energy weapons. Most shockingly to Council forces, human communication networks remained fully operational despite their best jamming efforts. Meanwhile, Council communication systems failed mysteriously, leaving their ships isolated and confused. In the Galactic Council Emergency Command Center, panicked reports flooded in faster than they could be processed. "How is this possible?" demanded Grand Arbiter Zixboon. "Their technology is decades behind ours." Science Director Ilara's voice trembled. "The humans. They deceived us. They have technologies we've never seen before. Cloaking systems beyond our detection capabilities. Weapons that bypass our strongest shields." This was a trap, realized Military Commander Jival. They let us capture their colonies. On the front lines, a Council battlecruiser drifted powerless, its systems disabled by a precise human strike. Admiral Parker's ship docked with the alien vessel. He personally led the boarding party to the bridge, where the Council commander waited in stunned defeat. "How?" asked the alien commander, a Vorel named Kethnar. "You were primitives. Your ships were basic, your weapons ineffective." Parker smiled slightly. "A wise human once said, 'All warfare is based on deception.' We showed you what we wanted you to see." "But the technology gap was a fabrication," Parker finished. "We've had these capabilities for years. We simply kept them hidden." The alien's compound eyes blinked in confusion. Why would an entire species hide its true capabilities? Parker looked out at the stars through the viewscreen. "We've been preparing for this scenario since 1938, when a radio broadcast about fictional aliens made us realize we might someday face real ones. Your species has been preparing for interstellar war for almost 300 years. We've been preparing for all wars," Parker replied. "It's what humans do. While your species evolved past conflict, we perfected it." He turned back to the defeated commander. "You declared war without studying your enemy. That was your first mistake." As Parker spoke, human forces continued their synchronized counterattack, pushing Council forces back in every sector, revealing capabilities that shocked the galaxy's oldest civilizations. The war had truly begun, and would end much sooner than anyone on the council had imagined. Grand Arbiter Six-Spoon's skin had lost its healthy blue glow, fading to a sickly gray as he convened the emergency council session. Around the circular table, representatives from the galaxy's most powerful civilizations sat in stunned silence. The holographic displays above showed the rapid retreat of council forces across all fronts. "How did we miscalculate so badly?" asked the Drell ambassador, his ancient voice quavering. Science Director Ilara activated a presentation. "We have been analyzing captured human data. Our fundamental understanding of their species was flawed." The display showed images from human history, armies clashing on battlefields, naval vessels exchanging fire, aircraft dropping bombs. While our civilizations evolved past internal conflict thousands of years ago, humans never did, Ilara explained. They spent their entire history fighting each other. When they weren't fighting, they were preparing for the next conflict. The council members watched in horror as the presentation showed world wars, Cold Wars, guerrilla conflicts. Their technological development was slower than ours because they diverted so many resources to warfare, continued Ilara. What we interpreted as primitive technology was merely what they chose to show us. Military Commander Jiffel, recently returned from the front lines, stood shakily. Their tactics are unlike anything we've encountered. They don't attack with overwhelming force. They target communication systems, supply lines, command structures. They disable rather than destroy. They were fighting this way before most of us achieved spaceflight. The doors to the council chamber opened, and a human figure entered. Dr. Nathan Wilson walked calmly to the center of the room, carrying nothing but a small data device. As Earth's leading historian, he had been granted safe passage to address the council. "Distinguished representatives," Nathan began, "I've been authorized to explain why you're losing this war." The council members shifted uncomfortably. "Humanity has experienced over 15,000 wars in our recorded history," Nathan stated matter-of-factly. "We've developed military doctrine through millennia of trial and error. The average human nation has more combat experience than the entire Galactic Council combined." He activated his device, projecting images of Earth's military academies, strategic institutes, and defense laboratories. "When we achieved spaceflight and met your civilizations, we were genuinely interested in peaceful cooperation. But we also prepared for the possibility of conflict. It's ingrained in our nature." "Why did you hide your true capabilities?" demanded Six-Spoon. Nathan smiled slightly. "Would you have welcomed us if you knew our true military potential? Would you have traded with us? Or would you have seen us as a threat to be eliminated before we grew stronger?" The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. "We maintained a careful facade," Nathan continued. "We showed you outdated technology. We presented ourselves as naive newcomers to galactic politics. Meanwhile, we studied your weaknesses and prepared contingencies." "Protocol underdog," whispered Commander Jiffel. Nathan nodded. "A comprehensive strategy developed centuries ago for exactly this scenario: conflict with a technologically superior alien alliance." Before the council could respond, the chamber's communication system activated. Ambassador Daniel Carter appeared on the main screen, speaking from the bridge of a human warship. "Grand Arbiter, council members," Daniel greeted them formally. "Human forces have secured all previously occupied colonies and are advancing toward Sendaria Prime. Your primary defense fleet has been disabled." He paused, letting the news sink in. "However, I've been authorized to offer terms. We don't seek your territory or resources. We don't want to rule your species. Our demands are simple: formal recognition of human sovereignty, reparations for damages to our colonies, and a new security agreement that acknowledges our right to defend ourselves as we see fit." Six-Spoon looked around at the defeated faces of the council members, then back at the human ambassador. "The alternative?" he asked quietly. Daniel's expression remained neutral. "We continue our advance, and while we prefer to avoid unnecessary destruction, we will do what we must to ensure humanity's security." The message was clear. The Council had started this war believing humans were primitive and weak. They would end it understanding just how wrong they had been. The massive observation deck of the human flagship Invincible offered a spectacular view of Centauria Prime below. Grand Arbiter Zixwoon's 6 limbs trembled slightly as he signed the formal surrender document. His ceremonial robes, once symbols of galactic authority, now seemed to weigh heavy on his frame. Across the table, Admiral Olivia Wright and Ambassador Daniel Carter represented humanity. They wore simple dress uniforms without excessive decoration. Behind them stood a small honor guard of human officers, their posture relaxed but alert. With this signature, Zixwoon announced, the Galactic Council formally acknowledges defeat and accepts the terms offered by the United Earth government. The document glowed briefly as the authentication systems verified the signatures. The shortest galactic war in recorded history, lasting exactly 27 days, was officially over. "We thank you for your cooperation, Grand Arbiter," Daniel said, his tone respectful rather than triumphant. Earth looks forward to resuming peaceful relations with all Council species. After the ceremony, Council representatives approached the human delegation with a mixture of fear and curiosity. "I don't understand," said the Arcturian delegate. "You've won decisively. Why aren't you demanding our territories, resources, subjugation?" Daniel exchanged a glance with Admiral Wright before responding. "That was never our goal. We simply want to be left alone to trade, explore, and develop in peace." "But that's not how wars work," insisted Military Commander Jiffal. "The victor takes from the defeated." Admiral Wright smiled slightly. "Perhaps that's how wars work among species that rarely fight them. Humans have learned the hard way that occupation creates resistance. Subjugation breeds rebellion. The most sustainable victory is one where both sides can live with the outcome." In the days that followed, ships from across the galaxy arrived at Earth. They carried not weapons but scholars, anthropologists, and historians, all desperate to understand the species that had defeated the combined might of 27 advanced civilizations. At the University of New Oxford, alien researchers crowded into lecture halls as human professors explained concepts that seemed foreign to them: asymmetric warfare, deterrence theory, the art of deception. "Humans are unique in the galaxy," explained Professor Maria Lopes to a room full of alien scholars. "We evolved as both cooperative and competitive beings. We built civilizations while simultaneously developing ways to destroy them. This contradiction shaped our approach to everything, including how we entered galactic society." One of the Voral researchers raised a limb. "What exactly was Protocol Underdog?" "We intercepted references to it, but never understood its meaning." Maria activated a display showing ancient Earth documents dating back to the 20th century. After a fictional radio broadcast about an alien invasion caused panic in 1938, human governments began developing contingency plans for actual extraterrestrial contact. These evolved over centuries. When we finally achieved interstellar travel and discovered the Galactic Council, we implemented the diplomatic portion of the protocol, presenting ourselves as less advanced than we truly were. She switched to images of hidden human military installations. "Meanwhile, we prepared for the possibility that first contact might eventually lead to conflict. We developed technologies in secret, built hidden fleets, and trained our forces for space combat." In the officers' lounge aboard Earth Defense Station Alpha, Daniel Carter and Olivia Wright shared drinks and watched Earth rotate slowly below. "To the shortest galactic war in history," Olivia toasted, raising her glass. Daniel clinked his glass against hers. "And hopefully the last." "Do you think they've learned their lesson?" Olivia asked. Daniel considered the question. "I think they're beginning to understand us better. Their species evolved past warfare. Ours perfected it. What still amazes me," Olivia said, "is that none of them bothered to study our history. All our conflicts, our strategies, our victories and defeats, it's all in our public databases. We never hid who we are." That was their critical mistake, Daniel agreed. They saw our technological limitations but missed our greatest strength, experience. Olivia laughed softly. Next time they'll check our history books first. Outside the viewport, a Galactic Council diplomatic vessel approached the station. The new era of human-alien relations was beginning, one built on mutual respect rather than misconceptions. The stars shined brightly, witnessing the galaxy's newest lesson. Never underestimate a species that had spent its entire existence preparing for war, even as it hoped for peace. I understand you'd like me to write an 8th part to the story, even though the original outline was for a 7-part story. I'd be happy to create an additional epilogue chapter for you. 6 months after the war, Earth hosted the first interspecies military and cultural exchange conference. Representatives from all 27 former Council species gathered in the Grand Hall of the United Nations building in Geneva. The atmosphere was tense but curious, as former enemies attempted to understand each other. Admiral Olivia Wright stood at the podium, surveying the diverse alien faces before her. Some showed obvious discomfort at being on human soil, while others leaned forward with eager interest. "Welcome to Earth," she began. "This conference marks a new chapter in galactic relations. We gather not as conquerors and conquered, but as species with much to learn from each other." In the front row, Grand Arbiter Zix Boone sat beside Ambassador Daniel Carter. The once proud leader of the Galactic Council had requested a position as permanent ambassador to Earth, determined to understand the species that had so thoroughly outmaneuvered his civilization. "Today begins our shared future," Olivia continued. "Each species brings unique strengths to this gathering. Humans offer our expertise in strategic thinking and adaptation. We hope to learn from your scientific and cultural achievements." After the opening ceremony, the conference split into specialized sessions. In the military exchange hall, Captain Ryan Miller led a demonstration of human combat tactics. "The key to human military success isn't superior technology," he explained to the alien officers. "It's our ability to adapt and overcome. Throughout our history, smaller forces have defeated larger ones through creative thinking." A Drell commander raised a withered hand. "But surely your advanced weapons systems were only part of the equation," Ryan interrupted politely. "Technology is just a tool. Strategy wins wars." In another hall, Dr. Nathan Wilson hosted a panel on human history. Alien historians listened in fascination as he explained the complex tapestry of human conflicts and resolutions. "The critical thing to understand about humans," Nathan emphasized, "is that we've never been united until recently. Our strength comes from thousands of years of competing with ourselves." An Arcturian scholar looked confused. "You see division as strength. We see diversity of thought as strength," Nathan clarified. "When different human nations developed different approaches to problem solving, the best ideas eventually prevailed." Evolution through competition. Throughout the vast UN complex, similar exchanges occurred. Alien scientists examined human art. Human engineers studied alien technology. Former enemies shared meals together. In a quiet garden outside the main building, Lisa Martinez from New Montana Colony sat with a young Voral researcher named Terval. They had both been on opposite sides of the brief occupation. "I still don't understand why your people didn't hate us after we invaded your home," Terval said. Lisa plucked a small flower, twirling it between her fingers. "Hate is a luxury in war. My ancestors fought each other for centuries before making peace. We learned that enemies today can be allies tomorrow." "Your species confuses me," admitted Terval. "You prepare for war while hoping for peace. You fight with incredible efficiency yet show mercy when victorious." Lisa smiled. "That's the paradox of humanity. We contain contradictions." As evening fell, the conference attendees gathered for a dinner in the Great Hall. Human and alien dishes filled the tables. Music from a dozen worlds played softly in the background. President Laura Simmons raised her glass in a toast. "To understanding. The war taught us all valuable lessons. The Council learned not to judge a species by its apparent technology. Humans learned we are no longer alone in facing the challenges of the universe. Grand Arbiter Zix-Boom stood to return the toast. And perhaps most importantly, we all learned that true strength lies not in weapons or ships, but in history, experience, and wisdom. As the gathering continued late into the night, human and alien representatives began forming genuine connections. Plans for joint scientific missions were drafted. Cultural exchange programs were established. Military cooperation protocols were developed. The stars visible through the hall's glass ceiling witnessed something remarkable. The first steps toward a true galactic community, built not on conquest or submission, but on mutual respect and understanding, forged in the aftermath of the shortest war in galactic history.